has some interesting comments about Coach Prime in Colorado, and I can't wait to get your reaction.
First coach I've ever had was Joe Gibbs, so me picking on Deion Sanders is nothing. I just don't like the way he coaches football. I don't think he's very bright. I don't think he can manage a game. I think there's a lot of flash, but I think there's no substance, and he's got a lot of people like brainwashed. And,
Damn.
We'll see. We'll see what he can do. But I'm just.
That's not just criticism. That's a former national champion, 13-year NFL veteran, and Colorado legend, systematically dismantling everything Coach Prime has built in Boulder. Christian Foyé just said Deion Sanders isn't very bright, can't manage a game, and has people brainwashed. And he's not backing down.
Tapped out after Shedeur Sanders' jersey retirement. Foyé said that retiring Colorado's QB number was a vanity project driven by his father and criticized Deion Sanders' leadership. Here it says, former Colorado star tight end Christian Foyé has officially had enough of Coach Prime. Foyé, who won a national championship with the Buffaloes in 1990 and played 13 seasons in the NFL, said he tapped out on supporting the program after Colorado retired Shedeur Sanders' jersey number. This is crazy. I don't know why he's so mad, going so hard at Coach Prime.
So here's what triggered this nuclear response. In April 2025, Colorado retired Shedeur Sanders' number 2 jersey. Not after a decade of reflection. Not after he'd proven himself in the NFL. Right after his final college season. And for guys like Foyé, who won an actual national championship with the Buffaloes in 1990. That decision crossed a line. Because before last year, Colorado had retired exactly 4 football jerseys in the program's entire history. 4. And now Shedeur Sanders joins that list after going 4-8 his senior year.
No. Here it says, I don't want Colorado to fail. I want them to succeed, Foyé said in an email to USA Today. But I find the head coach's priorities off-putting. I officially tapped out in April 2025 when athletic director Rick George allowed the University of Colorado to retire Shedeur Sanders' number 2.
But the jersey retirement is just the surface. What Foyé actually said in his email to USA Today cuts way deeper. He called it a vanity project driven by his father. Not driven by Shedeur's accomplishments, driven by Deion's ego. And that distinction matters, because it's not an attack on the kid, it's an indictment of how Prime operates the entire program. Foyé specifically said he can root for Shedeur as a player, while still calling out what the jersey retirement really represents.
Flips as fast as the weather at the base of the Flatirons, Foyé said. 1 minute, it's all empowerment, family, and toughness. The next is excuses, deflections, and bizarre post-game word salads that leave you scratching your head. What boggles my mind is how reporters rarely challenge him on late-game management or coaching decisions. Here he says, what I find comical is that...
Now watch what happens when Matt McChesney, another former Colorado player, weighs in on Prime's coaching style. Pay attention to the specific criticisms here, because they align perfectly with what Foyé is saying. This isn't one disgruntled ex-player. This is a pattern.
I gotta get your
What
reaction.
else what does he say about the fight song?
Here, let's talk here. Let's
Hold on. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll go back to it and do another part.
What was your reaction to hearing that?
I didn't know he went in like that. That's my first time here. I didn't know he was going in like that. Damn. Yo, this is wild, man, because I really want to know if he had this energy with the year before Coach Prime got there and they went 1-11. I really would like to know that.
Yeah.
Look, I know Christian. He's a great buff, great pro, multiple Super Bowl winner, played forever.
Yep.
I'm sure played against Prime several times.
I don't think he's very bright. I don't think he can manage a game. That's coming from someone who played under Joe Gibbs, a Hall of Fame coach with 3 Super Bowl rings. McChesney isn't some random talking head. He knows what elite coaching looks like. And when he says there's a lot of flash but no substance, he's pointing to something concrete. The late-game management issues, the confusing messaging, the inability to develop a consistent identity beyond Primetime's personality. Here's what makes this significant. These aren't rivals from another program taking shots. These are Colorado legends. Foyé has a national championship ring from Boulder. McChesney played there, knows the culture, understands what the program used to represent, and both of them are saying the same thing. Deion Sanders has turned their school into a personal branding operation.
Any criticism of Deion Sanders gets labeled as hate. Apparently, only blind loyalty is acceptable, no matter how self-serving or self-promoting his personality comes across. Those traits are ones I personally don't value and never will. Ask anyone who knows me or anyone I played with at any level. Foyé emphasized his criticism has nothing to do with his son, Caleb, who was on the roster when Sanders was hired in December 2022 before later transferring to Delaware. Okay. He said he's tapped out. You said it. He went in on Coach Prime.
Foyé went even further in his USA Today email. He said Sanders' messaging flips as fast as the weather at the base of the Flatirons. 1 minute it's all empowerment, family, and toughness. The next minute it's excuses, deflections, and what Foyé calls bizarre post-game word salads that leave you scratching your head. And then he asks the question that should make every sports journalist uncomfortable. Why don't reporters challenge him on late-game management or coaching decisions? That's a direct shot at the media coverage surrounding Prime. Because here's the reality, Deion Sanders gets treated differently than almost any other college football coach. When Nick Saban went 7-6 at Alabama, the knives came out. When Lincoln Riley struggled at USC, every decision got scrutinized. But when Prime goes 4-8 after all that off-season hype, after telling everyone he's bringing Louis to Boulder, the narrative becomes, well, at least they're relevant now.
His son is a hell of a player, was a hell of a player, was, I can't remember if he's still playing. He actually went to CU back in the day. I can't remember if he transferred out when Prime came in or not. If he was before, I can't remember the era. He didn't pull any punches, that's for damn sure. So, look, do I agree with all of it? No. Do I agree with some of it? I think that there's a lot of people that do, especially in the ex-player realm of life. You know, guys who used to play there. He even brought it up as some of the best times of his life. That's how a lot of guys feel. That was nuclear. That was Krista does good.
McChesney called it the Emperor Has No Clothes crowd. People who support Prime regardless of results, regardless of evidence, regardless of how the actual football product looks on the field. And that brainwashed comment? That's not hyperbole when you look at how Prime's propaganda team operates. They've built an entire media ecosystem that controls the narrative, floods social media with positive content, and labels any criticism as hate. Foyé addressed that directly. He said, "What I find comical is that any criticism of Deion Sanders gets labeled as hate. Apparently only blind loyalty is acceptable no matter how self-serving or self-promoting his personality comes across." And then he adds this crucial line, "Those traits are ones I personally don't value and never will." That's the real divide here. It's not about wins and losses, at least not entirely. It's about what Colorado football represents. For guys like Foyé and McChesney, the program meant something specific. Toughness, team-first mentality, earning your place through performance, not through your last name. And now they're watching their school retire a jersey for a quarterback who never won a conference championship, never made a playoff, never even finished with a winning record his final season.
And there's several others that are running with it. I'm seeing it all over social media. And his son played for Prime 23, since been with Delaware.
Look, do I think he's got people brainwashed? Yeah. We talk about this all the time. Like, yeah, I mean, he's got a propaganda team that brainwashes people. So, look, we've talked about the game management stuff. We've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
I think that I've been really critical.
Now here's where this gets complicated. Because the host makes a valid point that nobody was checking for Colorado football before Prime arrived. They won one game the season before Deion took over. 1. The program was irrelevant nationally, struggling to fill seats, barely registering in recruiting rankings. And Prime absolutely changed that. He brought attention, brought recruits, brought his sons and Travis Hunter and a level of national media coverage Boulder hadn't seen in decades. But that's exactly what makes this controversy so interesting. Because Foyé and McChesney aren't arguing that Prime didn't bring relevance. They're arguing that he brought the wrong kind of relevance. That he turned Colorado into a reality show instead of a football program. That the attention came at the cost of the program's soul.
That's look, people are giving their real opinions right now, and that's what it is. I'm not going to sit here and be mad at Christian for his opinion.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that or he's anti-buff. He doesn't like it's going to get.
That's exactly what the narrative is.
Side now, and they have every right to go down that road. That was very blunt. So I dig conversations like that. I don't really run from them. We have those a lot. Look, Coach Prime needs to win games this year and needs to do it in convincing fashion, and needs to.
Look at how McChesney frames his criticism. He says he's not a fan of Prime's coaching style, not a fan of his messaging, and then he adds, there's a lot of things internally that I know about that I'm not a fan of. That's significant. He's not just critiquing what happens on Saturdays. He's talking about what happens inside the building, the culture, the way players get treated, the way decisions get made. And then he says something that should resonate with anyone who's followed this program. It's just not worth my energy to sit there and follow it and go back and forth with the Emperor has no clothes crowd that support him regardless of how stupid he is sometimes. That's a former player saying he's checked out, he's done. The program he loved, the program he gave his body to, doesn't represent what he values anymore.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that today. I haven't seen that until you just showed it to me. So yeah, I got to think about it a little bit more, but not like first reaction. That's definitely going to start firestorm. That's for damn sure.
Man, this is crazy, man. Bro, Colorado ain't been good in a long time, man. Like, I really want to know what he felt about this program prior to Coach Prime's arrival. What he felt about the coach prior to Coach Prime when they was 1-11. I would like to know, man. But get down in the comments.
The host keeps coming back to this question. Where was this energy when Colorado went 1-11? Did Foyé go this hard at Karl Dorrell, the coach who led the program into the ground? And that's a fair question, because it reveals something about what's really bothering these former players. It's not just about losing. Dorrell's teams lost and nobody cared because nobody was watching. But Prime's teams lose while the cameras are rolling, while Deion's talking about bringing Lewis luggage to Boulder, while his propaganda team is flooding social media with content that doesn't match reality. That's what Foyé means when he calls the jersey retirement a vanity project. It's not earned through traditional metrics. It's earned through attention, through hype, through Deion's ability to control the narrative and make his son's college career seem more significant than the actual results suggest. Here's what both Foyé and McChesney are really saying, and why this matters beyond just Colorado football. They're arguing that Deion Sanders represents a fundamental shift in how college athletics operates, where attention becomes more valuable than achievement, where personal brand supersedes team success, where a coach can go 4-8 and still be celebrated because he made the program relevant. And they're not wrong to be concerned, because look at what actually happened in Boulder. Prime came in, cut most of the existing roster, brought in his own guys through the transfer portal, generated massive media coverage, went 5-7 his first year, then 4-8 his second year. Travis Hunter won the Heisman, which is incredible. But the team got worse. The defense remained a disaster. The late-game management issues that McChesney referenced never improved. And through it all, Prime controlled the narrative by limiting media access, curating his message through his own platforms, and dismissing criticism as hate. That's what Foyé means about the strange twisted loyalty from Sanders' diehards, because if any other coach produced those results after that much hype, the conversation would be completely different. But Prime has built something unique, a fan base that values the show more than the score, that celebrates the coach's personality more than the team's performance, that treats criticism of coaching decisions as personal attacks on a cultural icon. Now, does that mean Prime has failed at Colorado? Not necessarily. He's brought attention, improved recruiting, put players in the NFL, and made Colorado football a national conversation again. Those are real accomplishments. But he hasn't won. And for guys like Foyé, who actually won a national championship at Colorado, who understand what it takes to build a legitimate program, the gap between Prime's rhetoric and his results is glaring. The jersey retirement crystallizes all of this. Because by traditional standards, Shedeur Sanders didn't earn that honor. He didn't win a conference championship, didn't make a playoff, didn't even finish his career with a winning record. But by the new standards that Prime has established, where attention and brand value matter more than wins and losses, maybe he did earn it. Maybe being Deion's son, bringing that level of scrutiny and coverage to Boulder, generating that much content and conversation, is worth retiring a jersey for. That's the fundamental question these former players are forcing Colorado to answer. What does this program actually value? What does it mean to be a Buffalo? Is it about winning championships the way Foyé's team did in 1990, or is it about generating content, building brands, and staying relevant in the social media age? And here's why this controversy extends beyond Colorado. Because every major program is watching this experiment. They're seeing that Prime can lose and still be celebrated, that he can go 4-8 and still recruit 5 stars, that he can control the narrative so effectively that criticism gets dismissed as hate rather than evaluated on its merits. And some programs are going to look at that model and think maybe that's the future. Maybe in the NIL era, attention is more valuable than achievement. But guys like Foyé and McChesney are pushing back hard, saying that's not what college football should be, that there's something fundamentally wrong when a coach's son gets his jersey retired after going 4-8, that the emperor actually has no clothes, and someone needs to say it even if the propaganda machine labels them as haters. So where does this leave Colorado? Prime needs to win this year. Not just improve, not just stay relevant, actually win, because the grace period is over. The novelty has worn off, and former players who gave everything to that program are publicly saying they've tapped out, they can't support what it's become, they don't recognize the values that Prime has brought to Boulder. The athletic director Rick George approved that jersey retirement. He's betting that Prime's model works, that attention and brand value will eventually translate to wins, that the criticism from former players is just resistance to change. But if Colorado goes another season without a winning record, if the late-game management issues continue, if the gap between Prime's rhetoric and his results keeps growing, then guys like Foyé are going to look prophetic rather than bitter. And maybe that's the most important thing to understand about this controversy. These aren't random critics. These are Colorado legends who desperately want the program to succeed. Foyé literally said, "I don't want Colorado to fail. I want them to succeed." But he can't support what Prime has turned the program into. He can't watch his school retire jerseys based on name recognition rather than achievement. He can't stay silent while the coach dismisses criticism, controls the narrative, and prioritizes personal brand over team success. McChesney said he's not going to waste energy going back and forth with people who support Prime regardless of evidence. And that's probably the smartest move, because this debate isn't really about coaching decisions or game management anymore. It's about values. It's about what college football should represent. And you can't logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. So the question isn't whether Foyé and McChesney are right to criticize Prime. The question is whether Colorado is okay with becoming a program where attention matters more than achievement, where the coach's brand supersedes team success, where jerseys get retired based on who your father is rather than what you accomplished on the field. Because that's the program Prime has built, and some people love it. But the guys who actually won championships there, they've tapped out. What do you think? Is retiring Shedeur's jersey a vanity project like Foyé claims, or did he earn that honor through his contributions to the program? Can Prime's model actually work long-term, or does the gap between his rhetoric and results eventually catch up with him? And most importantly, what should college football programs actually value in the NIL era? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and let's keep this conversation going.